Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour of Self-Care. I'm Annette Chappie, and I'm a mental health warrior. It's great to be back, and I have a very moving story today about my own bout of depression. And I had a guest that was supposed to come on today, but she unfortunately was unable to attend. But thankfully, someone else has cared to join me today, and he is David Combs. And he has been on the Mental Health Warriors before, and I will flip back and forth and just I'll let him introduce himself and tell a little bit about who he is, what he does. But he's a fellow artist, so I'm very excited when I learn that there is somebody out there doing something to help end the stigma, and they do it with their artistic skills. So it's very dear to my heart that David is joining me today. So without any further delay, I will play our intro video and then bring David on. And welcome back, everyone. And welcome, David. How are you today?
Great. How are you doing, Annette?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous. Like I said, I haven't been on in a while. And I see our first comment is from Adam. He says, hello.
Hi, Adam.
He always tries to pop in and say hello when a show comes up. I told him you were coming on. He says, like, oh, wonderful. So my topic today, I was actually going to show up on my own because of the cancellation of my previous guest. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about my bout of recent depression that I went through, and I had mentioned that a little bit about that. However, but since you're my guest, you get to go first. So let our guests know who you are, David, and how you came to know the Mental Health Warriors.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. This is great. My name is David Combs, also known as Dave 2. That's my artist name. I have bipolar disorder, and I was diagnosed fairly late in life. I'm based in Indianapolis, and I came to know the Mental Health Warriors. I was on a host. She no longer does shows with you guys, but Dorota, she is based in England, and we met through working together on a zine. And she invited me to be on the podcast, and yeah, so I kind of got connected through her.
Very nice. No, I've never spoken with her, so this must have been before my time.
It was maybe about 2.5 years ago, something like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been with the Mental Health Warriors for about a year and a half.
okay.
So, David, how did your late diagnosis affect your life? Like, did you have suspicions that you were struggling with something with your mental health?
Well, kind of, but being an artist, I thought I was just kind of like a moody, emotional artist, and I would have highs and lows that did affect my life. But I just thought, well, it's just because I'm an artist, we're known to be a little, emotional and things like that typically. So um, that's what I wrote it off to, was just that, it wasn't. And I grew up with a dad with depression, so I thought that was kind of normal, like how, he would be absent many times for long periods of time and just only leave his bedroom for like meals and going to work, and then I wouldn't see him again, So I kind of thought, well, that's just how it is. And I was about 25 or a little old. I was like 27, I think, when I was actually diagnosed. So a lot of people get diagnosed in their late teens, early 20s. And so I felt like I had, you know, I was like, this is just how I am. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a very similar experience. I actually was diagnosed even much later. I was
Mhm.
diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder when I was 43.
Okay.
And for me, I don't know, I was going to ask you this question too.
Hmm.
It kind of put like opened the ceiling about how I was behaving and why I was always so angry and so I couldn't focus. I couldn't like let go of certain behaviors and things like that. So having a diagnosis of, a mental illness, kind of did that for me, kind of opened the floodgates to really get to know myself.
Hmm.
Is that similar for you, getting your diagnosis?
Yeah, sort of. I kind of rejected it at first. I didn't identify with that, and it took me a while. It took me actually trying medication, originally not liking the medication, and then thinking, well, this isn't working for me. And then, it took a few different um, attempts to find what was really going to work for me. Um, and then once I got stable, I was like, oh, this is what normal people, quote unquote, feel like. And so then I accepted the diagnosis, but I fought against it for a long time at first, for the first like couple of years almost. And
Yeah.
yeah, but it did shed a lot of light on my past experiences, and then also gave me some tools to use, through therapy and um, just research and things like that. Gave me some tools to help me gain some coping skills and things like that to help my life just go a lot better.
Yeah. And I apologize for my ignorance. I mean, having one mental illness doesn't mean I'm learned in all. So
Mhm,
I'm still having more and more guests on that have bipolar and
mhm.
borderline personality disorder and things like that. But um, when you have a diagnosis of bipolar, is that is there a reason? Do they call it a chemical imbalance or is it from trauma like PTSD?
I think it's typically, and for me, it's a chemical imbalance. For the most part, my uh, serotonin isn't in the correct balance, and I can have too much or too little. And when it's too little, I feel very depressed, and when it's too much, I feel hypomanic or manic. So,
Right. That's interesting because I was just recently listening to a webinar on the various types of mental illness, and I'm about to go into some courses on learning about more in depth about mental illness and my own diagnosis. Because I like for myself, I like the saying of we're living with a mental illness. I don't have a mental illness. So, like my most recent episode of depression, and I've had many, many bouts of depression. But before I go into that, there's also I wanted to touch a little bit on your spray monsters before
sure.
getting into the more depressing stuff. They're so
Good.
cute. I
Oh, thank
love them.
you.
I
I
see
have
a
some
little
behind
picture of
me,
them behind.
or this side. It's mirrored, so it's like backwards. It's over there. Anyway,
Cute.
yeah, those are some of mine back there.
They're so cute. And they intend to make people smile or laugh when they see
Mhm,
them.
mhm.
And you're spreading joy and happiness.
That's
That's
my
that
intent.
that's so beautiful. Um, if if you could take a picture of those little characters,
Mhm.
is that like what inspired you to make little monsters? Is that something about yourself or how you see the world?
Hmm. It's a journey of discovery for me, really. I they came out of a type of frustration. Actually, I was trying to paint something very detailed and small on a spray paint can, actually, which is,
Hmm.
obviously a curved surface. And I got real frustrated because it wasn't coming out the way I wanted to. And I have an essential trimmer because of some of the medication I have to take. It's
Hmm.
genetic, but it's amplified by the medication that I take. So
Yes.
I don't have as fine motor control as I would like, since taking medication. And I used to do very detailed, fine line artwork and things like that. Um, the medication is worth, um, the trade off, I guess you would say, because it keeps me stable, but it does cause my hands to tremor just a little bit, and makes it difficult for me to do that kind of detailed, fine work, fine, detailed work. So I was frustrated with what I was working on, and I just sprayed little blobs on the spray can, and they started to drip a little bit. And then I said, well, I wonder what if I put faces on them. And so they came out of kind of adapting my art style from fine detail to spray monsters, which are, spray painted blobs basically with faces. So yeah, it was kind of a happy accident, as Bob Ross used to say. I just, out of frustration, I sprayed blobs, and then spray monsters were born. So
That's so inspiring because it's like the story of Christopher Reeves
mhm,
and how he took the attitude of, you know, instead of just saying, oh no, now I have to live my life in a wheelchair,
mhm,
he took that to make it a positive to advocate for people who have that kind of injury.
mhm,
And you sort of did the same thing. You took your disadvantage and turned it into an advantage.
mhm.
And that's so inspiring. That's I'm grateful for you
Oh,
because that I get really emotional about these kind of things because the journey that I've been on, um, the impact I would love to make in the world is that everybody understand that doesn't need to be any stigma about mental illness. It's just a part of our lives that we may have at some time,
mhm,
and that it's manageable. It's some of them are treatable,
mhm,
and that some of them doesn't make a person any less than somebody who doesn't have a mental illness.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's just some people call it differently abled. And one of the things that I consider, and I've written it in an artist statement before, is that some people have different. There's movies and TV shows and all that stuff, and sometimes they get it kind of right, and sometimes they get it pretty wrong
Hmm.
about what it's like to live, with mental health challenge, or you know. But one of the things that oh, where was I going with that? Oh, just that, it's like, I put in an artist statement. Some people think it means I get really happy and really sad, but to me, it's kind of like I feel things more deeply maybe than some other people do. And I
Yeah.
kind of count that a blessing, like, and I would say depression, while it's not fun, sometimes I feel like I'm really processing things on a deeper level, maybe, than some people do when I'm really, in a mode of depression where I just feel, um, beyond sad. It's like being in a dark hole almost. And I don't, not to be a downer, but that's what it's like to me. And then, mania is on the other extreme. It's like, feeling like invincible almost, to the degree where it's just like I can do anything, and feel like Superman almost. So, but yeah, it's just being differently abled, I think, is the way I like to think of it.
I like that terminology,
Hmm.
that differently able. It's a positive way of looking at
Hmm.
having um, a mental illness, diagnosed with it, and living with it, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So you say here in your bio that you have a dog named Boogie. Now, how
Yeah.
did your dog get a name Boogie?
Oh, his full name is Salvador David Dolly Boogie Gray, but we just call him Boogie
For
for
short.
short. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cute. So does he like to dance?
He likes to run. He likes to play is his favorite thing. And when I throw the ball down the hallway,
Yeah.
we joke about it because we have a special language for the dog. So it's like, where'd you put your ball? Like, that means where did you put your ball? But in Boogie, it's like, where'd you put your ball?
That's cute.
Bring me back that ball. Yeah,
Yeah. I think one day we should do a mental health warrior special with all our pet animals,
that
because
that would be awesome.
that would be awesome, because I have a party Pomeranian. What kind of
Mhm.
dog do you have?
He is part Chihuahua and part Jack Russell Terrier, and maybe
Oh my
something
God.
else. He's a rescue, so we don't know exactly what his lineage is, but yeah,
Yeah.
he's a sweetheart. He's 13 years old, but he still plays like a puppy. So
Yeah. They have
there's
a
no
lot of
other-
energy, those two mixes.
yeah.
Yeah, but our Sam, he's a party pom, which means he's got two colors that are distinctive. He looks more like a border collie than anything, because he's black
Oh,
and white.
yeah. That's
And
beautiful.
he's just such a love dove. He just, if you're sad, if you're upset, he knows it. He's there for you. I think that would make a great podcast.
Yeah, it would.
Mental health and how dogs are self-care.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, talk a little bit about your book that's going to be published early 2024. I'd
That's
love to hear about this.
That's the target, yes. One of the things that's really cool about it, well, my fiance is a psychologist, so she has the clinical background to help put this together, and I have kind of the artistic background to with it. It will be with spray monsters, but they'll be talking
Yes.
about mental health and uh, yeah, so the idea behind it is making it accessible to kids, or young people, um, and hopefully giving them language to talk about mental health in a way that maybe they're not getting at school or wherever, and making it kind of fun and cool, to with the characters, the spray monster characters, um,
Yeah.
and we have a cool idea too that I haven't talked about anywhere else, but we want to have some little QR codes in the book that you can scan and have actual sounds that will. We're working with another gentleman that his specialty is sound healing. So he uses those bowls with and like makes the dong or whatever, like
I
those.
have one of those. Yeah, ringing bowl, a singing
Yeah,
bowl.
ringing bowl. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it, but
Yeah.
he uses ringing bowls. So we're going to record specific sounds, and when you go through the book, I mean, this is the idea. We haven't worked out all the details of it yet, but you'll be able to use your smartphone and hear the tones that go with the story. So
That's cool.
yeah, I'm excited about that. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, I definitely will want a copy of your book.
Oh, cool! It should be available on Amazon. We're gonna publish it through Amazon, just self-publish it for this first um, book, and then if it does well, we might seek out a publisher and do it on a bigger scale. But
Yeah. Well, um, it when your spray monsters, do they have a specific name?
that's what they're called, spray monsters. That's
Spray
the
monsters.
mhm.
Okay. So do you like, are they big pieces or little pieces or a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything. The biggest one I've done, I don't have it here, but is 4 feet by 6 feet. So that's the largest one I've done so far. And the smallest ones are, like really small. So with
Wow.
one little spray monster on a, like 2 by 3 2 inch by 3 inch, like little piece. So I've done
Yeah.
everything in between. These ones behind me are the one on this side. I can't get my
Yeah.
hand in there. It's weird because it's not like a mirror, it's backwards. But
Yes.
and now I have bubbles too. I don't know what those were. But anyway, the ones behind me are, kind of medium sized, and that's what I like to do the most of, is kind of medium sized ones. They go well at a cafe or wherever. So
Yeah. Very cool. I like getting I do my artwork with frames that are repurposed.
mhm,
So I'll go into either a thrift store, or I'll ask for donations and people
mhm,
donate frames to me,
mhm,
and I'll dabble in, recoloring them and varnishing them or whatever the case may be to go with my artwork.
I've done
But
that too. I love thrift shops. That's the best place to find a inexpensive frame, or sometimes I even paint over canvases or paint into canvases. So there might be like a landscape, and
yeah,
it's like a sometimes a vintage reproduction that I can pick up very inexpensively, and I'll add some spray monsters to it, and it just changes the whole context of the piece.
that's
So
incredible.
yeah.
I really love that. I had some pretty interesting paintings that I do fundraisers as well, right?
Hmm.
So during my fundraisers, I had a whole bunch of portraits and paints, and I had, they're really popular, but I don't know if you might know of them. But it's like the boy in blue and the girl in pink.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen those portraits?
I don't think so.
I think they're from over in Europe, but
But
if you Google them, you'll see them come up. It'd be
yeah,
funny
I
to
might have
put
seen them.
some
I just
spray
didn't.
monsters on them.
Yeah, I've done several pieces like that, and it's so fun because a lot of times they're pieces that have been sort of discarded, almost like
Yeah,
donated, to a Goodwill or whatever thrift shop, and someone didn't want it, and it sits there for a while, and then I'm like, oh, I can give it new life. And it's almost like a metaphor for sometimes, if if you do have a mental health challenge, you kind of do feel sometimes discarded by society, but you can recontextualize that with, like you said, kind of turning a negative into a positive and doing something, to help others through what you face. And that's what I've
yeah,
done with publishing. Publishing This Zine Has Issues is a little mini magazine, and the whole point is very similar to Mental Health Warriors. It's to reduce the stigma of mental, illness or ill mental health, and help others know they're not alone. So,
yeah. Well, when I first came out with my adult mindfulness coloring books,
mhm,
I wanted to get across some messages that were from my viewpoint of what love, kindness, and compassion were.
mhm,
So initially, I wanted to make it into one book, but
mhm,
my girlfriend, she says to me, make them individual so that people can buy the specific one that speaks to them the most.
mhm,
And because I love to teach, I also made a section in the back that's called exploratory pages and techniques. So I write a little bit about, how I stumbled across doodling, and there really are no mistakes when you make art. You just kind of go with it,
mhm,
and I give some suggestions. And then I made some pages that were doodles, but they're open so that you can doodle within them. And I teach people, it's very emergent. So whatever comes out of you, I find my art can vary from 1 month to the next.
mhm,
Like now I'm on a yin yang trip of making those, because I made this beautiful one for my son, and he really loved it. And
mhm.
I do prints of them,
Cool.
and then people say, well, do this with your art, do that with your art. So I started modifying it,
Hmm.
and it's become quite popular. And then I expanded into other stuff like mugs and mouse pads and things like that. And I find the more I explore my creativity, the the quicker I come out of depression.
Mm-hmm.
right? So the last bout of depression I had was because I had slipped into the pattern of codependency again.
Mm.
So my mothering instinct was never like looked after, and I'm back into therapy over this because the struggles I've had from being separated from my children for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
I keep going into these patterns of relationships, which is the stress part, I guess, of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I have this disorder in my brain that keeps saying, well, you got to keep trying to help people
Mm-hmm.
in families. Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to do an update on my progress once I've talked to my therapist again about this, because even though, I spent like a week on the couch,
Mm-hmm.
it was like recuperating because I didn't recognize the signs. I don't know about yourself, but when I slip into such a depression, the signs before that is my whole body hurts
Mm-hmm.
and I can't focus on anything.
Mm-hmm.
I totally, even though I think I'm doing my meditation and my self care, it's like, it just kind of, it's there, but it's not having any effect. Do you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah, I totally do. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
Adam has a question. Here,
Okay.
I'm going to put it up for you.
All right.
It says, can you read that?
Yes. For those that don't understand from a man's perspective, what does rock bottom mean to you? And
Good question.
thank
Thanks,
you for the
Adam.
question, Adam. Yeah. Um, for me, some of the worst times that I've, struggled with bipolar disorder, rock bottom meant just being completely at the end of myself. Uh, a lot of times, what happens is I end up in the hospital, and if it's a manic episode, the only thing that will set me right is getting a tranquilizer shot. So I have
Wow.
to get knocked out for, you know, 14, 20 hours, whatever, and I just sleep. And the way I think about that is it's like a computer that's like not running well. My brain is like a malfunctioning computer at that point. And it's like rebooting your computer. You start it over and it boots up, and the programs that were running in the background or whatever are like reset. And it's almost like it's like the different programs come back online at different times. So one of the things that happens is like my facial recognition is really good. Like I see people that remind me of someone else, and they are that person though, until my social connections come back online, and then I realize, oh, that's not you know Aunt Judy. That's, what I mean. That's like a different person. That's probably hard to understand for anybody that doesn't have bipolar disorder, but that's the way I can describe it. Um, but yeah, and Adam put up there, it's hard for us men to understand on how we feel sometimes, isn't it? Yes. It can be definitely hard. um, and rock bottom for depression for me has typically been this is like trigger warning or whatever, but having thoughts of self-harm, and to the extreme. And so that's been rock bottom for me. I've been hospitalized about 13 times since my diagnosis, and it's been a pretty even split for depression or mania. So yeah, but rock bottom has a different look for mania or depression for me. And sometimes it is hard to express those feelings. And when I was married for 20 years, and a lot of times I would kind of hide my feelings so that I didn't make my ex-wife worry, and so I wouldn't talk about that I was feeling, down or a little low sometimes. And I also wouldn't talk about it if I was feeling a little hypomanic because, well, with hypomania, it feels way better than depression just internally. I would start to be more productive and get more things done and kind of tackle those projects that had been kind of lingering. So yeah, with that, but I don't know. I may have gotten off topic a little bit, but yeah, rock
An
bottom.
interesting question came up from what you're saying, if I can
Mhm.
interrupt you.
Sure.
Do you find that I wouldn't imagine in depression that you're artistic, like your artistic, your how do you say that? Artistic flair? I don't know.
Hmm.
Comes It wouldn't come out in depression because I know mine doesn't because
Hmm.
you're too depressed to do anything.
Can be, yeah.
But in your mania, do you get an artistic like burst?
Yes, I get more productive. One of the things that I can do during depression is, um, if I can peel myself off the couch, like you know how that is,
Yeah.
and do something very simple, just as simple as drawing a sticker. Um, and I sometimes I use the free ones that they give out at the post office, like this,
Yes.
and I'll just draw my name over and over. Sometimes, if I can get one or two done, then it
Oh,
starts to flow, and
yeah.
then I can do more, and it kind of helps. It can help me pull out of a depression if I can just manage to do a little something and not worry too much about the outcome. Just I'm the act of creating, and producing
Yeah.
something can kind of give me a little bit of that serotonin or dopamine or whatever it is that's missing, and just get that little bit of satisfaction, and then I can kind of sometimes ride that wave and kind of slowly pull out of it, but that it's hard. Like you said, it is hard to be creative when you're depressed, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Found that when I reach that point, when I go through I was in pain, physical pain, mentally was like numb.
Hmm.
And then it started with I came back from a trip of all things, and I love going on motorcycle rides.
Hmm.
But when I got back to the environment I was living in, I immediately, like, boom, there was no break. I immediately slipped into depression. I could work because I work from home
Hmm.
for somebody, but I couldn't do anything but do the 3 hours I needed to do and then back on the couch and binge watch TV.
Hmm.
And then, like, that even numbed me more. And it was like, but the beautiful thing that came out of it was because I'm not focused on anybody, not even myself, like, there's just like, oh, I'm in the couch, you
Hmm.
know, it's almost like a hard boot of what's troubling me comes out,
Hmm.
right? I don't quite have the answers yet, and I still don't have them all, but it's almost like it's time to take what you're going through and set it aside, and then the anger comes in.
Mm. Yeah.
When the anger comes out, it's all about somebody else, but truly I'm angry at myself.
Hmm.
And but it taught me the wonderful thing is it taught me to recognize that I wasn't paying attention to the symptoms. Now, do you get that as well with bipolar? Do you have some prior symptoms that you experience to know that you're going into an episode?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I have experienced the physical pain before. That's usually a
Yeah.
little later. The thing that happens for me is simple tasks seem way too difficult. Like,
Mm.
um, oh, it's time to wash the dishes, but I would have to like rinse them off first and turn on the water. It's a simple task that you do daily, but
Yeah.
it just seems impossible. And just, it's like, and feeling tired when I shouldn't be tired because I slept all night, or even if I slept restlessly, it's like, well, I did get enough sleep. So, but it's like, do dishes or take a nap. And take a nap sounds better, even though I'm well rested, So
Yeah.
that's when I start noticing it, when simple tasks, and I'll start to procrastinate things and just like, you know, well, I can do that later, I'll just waste time right now and, on social media or something, and um, find myself doing that. That's when I know it's starting to come along for me. It's the simple tasks that are just too hard. Um,
Do you think that the pressures um, of just the day-to-day things that we put on ourselves contribute to, like, I feel that that's what happens for me a lot, is that just the pressures of being a girlfriend and a I'm doing part-time PSW kind of work. Um my children, the dog, the expectations to get more work, those all those things, and then your perspective of them kind of spirals you out when you're not mindful of your thoughts.
oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. That's one of the things about procrastinating is they start to pile up. The things that you put off, or that I put off, start to pile up, and then the anxiety builds about it, and then it's like you have depression and anxiety like kind of mixed together, where you're
Yeah.
and then for me, I just want to avoid it all. So it's like, well, maybe if I go to sleep, it'll disappear, but it's still there when you wake up, every time. So yeah.
Yeah. So does I heard, to bridge a little bit back into the bipolar stuff, is in the webinar I was listening to yesterday, I heard that they sometimes, when you're in a mania, some people will like go out and spend
Hmm.
or gamble or like smoke themselves or drink themselves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Be promiscuous
yes,
sometimes. That's another one.
yes,
Um, I've never spent all my money, but what happens to me is I get super, and I don't know if I'm an introvert or extrovert. I don't know. Sometimes I feel more introverted, sometimes I feel more extroverted, but I am everybody's best friend when I'm manic. I will
mm,
talk to strangers. I will, just strike up a conversation with a random person, and that's not normally me. So, I mean, I'm friendly. I'm a friendly person, but I'll go out of my way to start talking to someone at random, and I don't. I feel like I'm hyper aware of things like social cues, and I'm hyper aware of everything. Like my senses I feel like I have superpower senses. So I hear every little sound, I smell every little smell, I like see colors more vibrantly when I'm feeling manic. Um, and I hope I don't annoy people when I talk to them, but it's like if they don't want to talk, I don't press the point. But um, yeah, I've struck up a lot of conversations just when I'm hypomanic, especially
yeah.
when I'm full on manic. I'm usually on my way to the hospital, at that point. But
So it's like you can't slow yourself down, is what you're
no,
saying.
no, racing thoughts is a big thing in pressured speech.
Yeah.
Racing thoughts are where your thoughts are just coming a mile a minute, and you can't talk fast enough to express what you're thinking. You know, so you talk faster, or I do anyway. I talk faster, and sometimes can't get the words out. Um, One thing that happens too is delusions for me. So I can become paranoid. I can be think that things are connected that aren't really connected. So because this song is on the radio and that sign has the same words on it, I'm in some kind of like uh, dimensional portal or something. You know, it's weird.
Oh,
It's really weird.
it's gotta be frightening.
It is a little frightening, but you're not scared when you're manic. You're just like,
Oh,
at least for me anyway, I don't get scared. I get, well, I guess paranoia is a type of fear, you know, to the point, but it's not a rational kind of fear. You think like, you might tend to think like there's a conspiracy out just about you, like they're trying to like track you
get
down, or
you.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So even like I would, you know, I've had times where I don't trust those around me, and that
Yeah,
is a little, when I look back on it, it's frightening in retrospect, but at the time you're just protecting yourself, or you know what I mean, like if you're alienating people, for me it's just like, um yeah, I gotta get out of this place, you know. And
yeah,
so yeah, it it's it feels very, it's interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy because it feels very lonely, but you feel like, you know, everybody's your best friend, but the people that you really are truly closest to, sometimes you can alienate them because you're, you know, you can be afraid they're out to get you, or you know, they don't have your
yeah,
best interest in mind. It's a weird, it's a weird experience, definitely.
yeah. So Adam's asking, what lesson have you learned yourself from being trapped in that depressive cycle compared to where you are now?
What lesson have I learned?
Hmm.
Let me think. I'm sure I've learned a lot of lessons. Just articulating them can be a little difficult sometimes, but as far as you know, I've learned that self care is very important. Um, Sometimes for me, it's easy to slip into a depressive cycle if I'm not doing my self care, like not trying to take good care of my physical health, eating better. You know, making art is a form of therapy to me. So if I'm not getting in the studio or just sitting at the desk and drawing a sticker, if I'm not doing something creative, that's a quick way for me to slip into a depressive cycle. So I have learned that about myself, that you know, self care is a huge aspect of maintaining a kind of stability for you know, at least for avoiding depression, and probably for mania too. Mania is just a different animal in that it just seems like the chemicals just aren't in balance in my brain, and so um, sometimes that just hits almost out of the blue, and
Yeah,
there's a lot shorter time span. Depression for me is a slow creeping. It doesn't just, I don't typically, in my experience, wake up one morning and I'm like, you know, at at the bottom of the barrel. It's more like
progressive.
yeah, it's more like a gradual slow decline into it. Now
Yeah,
with mania, it can be pretty quick. I can I can actually start to feel, you know, I'm like, hey, I feel great today. And then, you know, it can ramp up pretty fast, especially if I don't sleep well, if I'm not getting enough sleep. And this is a self care issue too. If I'm just working, and really piling on the work and really trying to accomplish everything, then I get, it kind of like feeds that cycle, the manic cycle, to
yeah, I
where,
think that's what happened to me recently.
mm,
Right? I was ignoring. I have this behavior pattern of believe I'm doing self-care, but at the same time I have conflicting thought patterns that are like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm start to overwhelm myself. And then the conflicting thing is, I'm not doing enough, and I have all these negative thinking. So they're almost like, hitting each other. And I go into this denial stage
Hmm.
of all these things that are bothering me.
Yeah.
And then they come to a huge head, and then I explode.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's kind of like, why can't I break the pattern of recognizing my own, um, inability to assess
Hmm.
myself, right? Sometimes I'm successful, other times not so much.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, since I've had so many bouts of depression and each time I've come out of it, my life has improved.
Hmm.
Like, it's never gotten worse. I haven't had any terrible experiences where, because of my depression, I ended up, um, I mean, my worst case scenario was being homeless.
Hmm.
But even that kind of opened up doors for me to say, hey, you got to get your, my language, you got to get your shit together,
Hmm.
and pay attention to what you're experiencing, and
Hmm.
listen, get some help, ask for help. And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I don't think I've ever talked about on my program of Power Hour Self-Care is ask for help.
Yes.
And you know I find, you must, maybe you experience this too, is when we're in our mental illness,
Hmm.
it's like we do become introverted, and
Hmm.
we forget to ask for help.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. Or, for me, it was that I didn't want to upset anyone or rock the boat. So, oh man, I can tough this out myself. I don't need anybody's help because I don't want to, scare, the people around me into thinking that I'm, having extreme thoughts of self harm or anything like that. I'm just having a bad day, or I'll tell myself that that's the case, which
Yeah.
is is kind of false, like lying to yourself and thinking, "Oh, I can handle this," Maybe you can, but maybe it would be better just to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. Tomorrow, Adam has the 700th YouTube show. I
Oh,
thought I was
cool.
the 700th. Oh well, doesn't matter. 699, good number.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
Congratulations, Adam. That's awesome.
yeah, you know, um, doing my art, selling my art, getting money for to help people, it's one of the best things that I could that's come out of everything that I've experienced. And I'm making more and more connections with other artists who want to help this way. So if there's anything I can do to for you, David, that we can maybe do together, just give me a ring.
Okay, I love
And
to collaborate. It's one of my favorite things
yeah,
is
mine too.
collaboration. So,
Yeah,
however we can collaborate, if you're doing a benefit or something like that, I can send a piece or, just whatever. Or
yeah, that would be wonderful.
yeah.
And I did put up your information, how people can contact you, but you want to share that again with people so they won't see the message after a while. So
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, my website where I have my art is spraymonsters.com, just like it sounds, no dashes or underscores or anything like that. Just spraymonsters.com. And then I also have multiple other channels to connect through. Instagram is Dave Makes Stickers. And then that's also my Facebook. And I have Spray Monsters accounts on those too. So I have too many ways to connect. But you can get to just about anything through spraymonsters.com. And then there's also a zine that I haven't published in a while, but if you are specifically interested in the zine, and it's all about mental health, is it's this zine, zine has issues.com, and you can find out about the various publications that I've done some I did on my own, and then later I did some with a friend. But the last issue we did was about sleep and mental health. So a very important
Oh, interesting.
aspect of mental health, and it has articles and resources and all kinds of stuff from all different perspectives, from lived experience through like clinical, doctors that vetted these articles and wrote about stuff. So um, yeah, but it's that one's available on Amazon if you just search "This Zine Has Issues," but there's also a link on the website. So
Yeah. Yeah, send me that information in
yeah, for sure.
via Facebook Messenger, and I'll look that up.
Okay, great.
Okay. So did you want to add anything to what you'd like to share with viewers?
Well, just as a recap, I think it is important, as you mentioned, to reach out if you're struggling. Um, we have a new I don't I don't want to get like the trigger words that trigger things, but if you are struggling with, like extreme self-harm, I guess is a way to put it, we have a new, I think the number is 988. So if you can't reach out to a friend or family member, or if you're, scared to do that, um, in the United States, we have 988. I think that's the number. Yeah, the 988 crisis lifeline. So you know, I would highly recommend that you reach out, and don't just try to do it on your own. Um, because we're all in this together, kind of, and um, n- nobody, nobody, there's nobody in the world that doesn't need help sometimes. So don't think badly of yourself if you need help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, we have a talk one here in Canada to if there's a crisis where you're feeling that you're going to do self-harm, it's 1-833-456-4566, and it's available 24/7. And yeah, and we always tell people, like Adam was checking in on me when I was going through what I was going through, and he's my brother. He's my UK brother, and
yeah.
I'm very grateful that he cares, and my other friends care. Like even my guest that was supposed to come on, is when I told her I had to cancel her during that week, and
Mhm,
she came back and phoned me immediately and started talking to me. Are you okay? And I'm very open about when I'm going through something, because I used to have my own self stigma,
mhm,
but now it's more like, if I want the stigma to end, I got to be a poster child per se, and
mhm.
talk about what I'm going through so that the stigma does get eroded and we're able to talk freely about it. And
Absolutely.
it's actually up here in Canada. I don't know how well it's doing down in the States, but the stigma is slowly starting to erode, and more people are getting help, and more people are participating in many activities to get people help with their mental health.
Hmm. That reminds me of one other thing. On I do have some mental health shirts with
Mhm.
my spray monsters on them, and 100% of the profits goes uh, to prevention and awareness education.
Wonderful.
It is the only way to get to those right now is to go to um, spraymonsters.threadless.com, and I can send you that link. But
Yeah, send me that as well.
it's on Threadless, and it's the charity is Hope for the Day, and they are proactive prevention and education and awareness. So it's based out of Chicago here in the States. So
Wonderful.
mhm,
Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for bringing all this awareness to the public, because my story, your story, hundreds of stories like this, they make a difference, they make an impact for so many people.
mhm,
And we're on the same kind of wavelength, because I'm coming out with taking some of my art, putting it on t-shirts with believing, and then the healing, and then on the back about the proceeds going to mental health. So good job.
Yeah, good job to you too. That's
Such
awesome.
a pleasure talking with you today, David.
Yes, this has been lovely. Thank you so
You
much.
made my job easy.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's
I
great.
look
Great to
forward to
hear.
talking to you in the future.
Yes, me too.
Okay, so I'll let you go, and I'll play our ending video. And you have a most fantastic rest of the week.
Thank you. You as well.
All right, all the best to you.
All the best. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Until next day, November 23rd. Managing your post-traumatic stress disorder.